Hello and welcome to SolidWorks Live, where we're coming to you virtually this month to talk about the SolidWorks Certification Program. Hopefully you're joining us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, or live.solidworks.com. Wherever you're joining us from, we appreciate you being here today. I'm going to be joined to talk about the SolidWorks Certification Program this morning by Mike Puckett, our Senior Manager for SolidWorks Worldwide, the SolidWorks Worldwide Certification Program. Wow, that's a tongue twister, Mike. And then Sarah Youngins, the Senior Manager for the SolidWorks Education and Early Engagements Program. I'm your host, Jeremy Rigneris, and we're thrilled to have you here today. And welcome, Mike and Sarah.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you, Mike.
I've already failed the title certification.
Hi, Jeremy, and hello, Mike. How are you guys?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, I want to thank both of you for joining me here today. We're obviously coming to everyone virtually this morning or afternoon, depending on where you're watching us from around the world. One of the things we see a lot is working virtually. We're all over the place. I'm broadcasting from West Michigan area. Mike, how about yourself? Where are you joining us from today?
I'm working from home near Las Vegas, Nevada, where I have been for the past 6 months or so now. It's a nice warm day here. It's already almost 100 degrees at 8 in the morning.
Oh, wow. That's incredibly warm. Sarah, how about yourself? Where are you joining us from?
I'm just outside our Waltham headquarters in Acton, Massachusetts. Not as hot as Mike's, but this is my new home office, and I've been here for about 5 months now.
All right. Well, today we're going to be covering a topic that we get asked about all the time on SolidWorks Live and Live Design, and that's certifications. A lot of questions we get fairly regularly have to do with where can I go take the certifications? How much do they cost? What do I need to learn? And those are the questions we hope to answer here today. But we're joined by both Mike, who manages the Worldwide Certification Program, but also Sarah, because certification is an important part of our academia strategy as well. So as we go through this morning, we're going to kind of have a conversation about all facets of the certification program. If you have questions at home that you would like to ask, post those in the comments section for whatever social media platform you're on, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Instagram. And we have moderators who will kind of send us those questions, and we'll answer those at the end. As we get towards the end of this broadcast, we'll go through and we'll try to answer as many of those questions as possible. So with that, Mike, I wanted to dive in and start right away with you. For the folks who may not be aware of what the SolidWorks Certification Program is, can you give us a bit of an explanation as to exactly what our certification program is?
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. It's been our certification program has actually been in existence since late 1998 when we introduced the CSWP exam, or Certified SolidWorks Professional, as it's known by. And then it kind of just hung out there for a while until the late 2000s when we introduced CSWA. And then when we took our exams online, it just skyrocketed from there. And today the program consists of about 18 to 20 exams taken by users all around the world. We're quickly approaching 500,000 certified users around the world. Exams are taken by commercial customers, education students all around the world, our resellers, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, one of the numbers you just kind of tossed out there, and I don't want to talk about numbers. I mean, I know numbers maybe internally are important, but you mentioned almost 500,000 certified users. And I talked with you earlier this week, and you threw some pretty amazing statistics out there that kind of blew me away. I want to talk about these a little bit, specifically the second number, October 31st, 2019. We had somebody taking an exam every half a minute. Can you kind of clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, basically, you can, there's 5,000 some odd minutes in a day. So 2,700, you just divide by two. It's pretty simple. But it basically what happened is we were running a promotion that month. We had just introduced the expert exam for simulation, and we were giving away the two supporting simulation exams for free. So everybody was waiting until the last day to take those exams. Um, and so yeah, we basically every half minute. It just kind of shows the robustness of the system, of the virtual tester system that we use. But as you mentioned, the numbers for us are they're fun. Those numbers are fun to look at. And if there's a checkbox somewhere on my compass goals internally for it, but we don't concentrate so much on the numbers as much as we do just on the value that these certifications hold.
So, but I have to say, with 460,000 certified users, this has to be important to our customers. Can you explain a little bit about where that value comes from a customer's perspective? Say I'm a customer and I'm interested in taking a certification. What's the value to me as a customer to go out and take a certification?
Well, it really is. It's about the value that's behind there. You're trying to promote yourself to stand out among a crowd of potential. If you're looking for a job, potential hires. We have several customers that have stated to us that if somebody submits a resume and they have a certification on there, it'll get them in the door for an interview. If they're already working at a company, it's a great way for an employee to demonstrate their willingness to kind of learn more and be more productive at their job as well. And the company can reward them in different ways that they see. But it's just a great way to demonstrate the skills that are behind there. I mean, these certifications are recognized in the industry and around the world. CSWP and CSWA, they're pretty well known in the CAD industry. So there's just a lot of value behind those exams, and that's what we want, because at the end of the day, we want people to be able to demonstrate their skills, that they know what they're doing in the software.
So you talk about an individual user using their certification as a way to show their value or their worth within an organization or their core competency with our tools. But what about those companies themselves? Their employer, maybe the person that employee goes to and asks for them to compensate or reimburse them to take an exam. What's the value to the individual businesses that have employees who want to take these certifications?
Yeah, sure. And one of the replies we get from business quite often is they may be a little hesitant to maybe investment that money into their employee, get them certified, get them trained, for them to walk out the door next day and go get a different job. But in the meantime, it's not always true, because employees will see it from a different kind of angle. Um, there's a lot of companies that have skills-based promotion programs implemented, where in order to get to the next engineering level, you have to pass these certifications. Uh, the the obvious benefit really is that the users become more productive in their day-to-day work. We know that somebody who's passed a few exams is just better in the software. They can build more robust models, and they can get their job done faster. And then just in an engineering team and building camaraderie. I mean, imagine the different things you can do there, where you have a contest to see who can maybe score the highest score in the first pass of an exam, and then the manager gets everybody trained using the tools that are built into the exams to determine what they need to learn, and they come back 6 months later and they retake it, and everybody's all of a sudden, they're already more knowledgeable, and so the company gains in productivity, and the employees, well, in a way, they kind of don't know they were just tricked into learning more, but in a fun kind of way. And obviously, there's the other things like bonuses, pay raise, stuff like that. Also, we've seen companies tied to. So it just makes companies more productive.
Yeah, I mean, those are all great examples from our commercial customers' perspectives. But we brought Sarah on today because education is an important part of the certification process. Sarah, I think one of the first questions I want to ask you is actually how do the certifications differ from, say, I'm a commercial customer, or maybe I'm a student in academia? What's different from the test that student is going to take?
Sure. Good question, Jeremy. There really is no major difference between the commercial exam versus, say, our CSWA academia exam. It is the exact same exam. The only difference is that it is given under a proctored setting. So your teacher would be acting as your proctor during the exam.
Okay, so we're going to dive into all the different exams that we have available, but at the end of the day, that's an important point to make here. If you're a student looking at taking these exams, these are the same certifications that your commercial counterparts will be taking. So I'll ask that same question I asked Mike to you, Sarah. What is the real value or importance of getting these certifications for a student?
Sure. So for students, this certification proves their skills. It will make them more marketable once they graduate. We basically would hope that our commercial customers would take these certifications as a way to sort of weed out their new hires. So we want to make sure that we're giving these students a leg up. We want to make sure that they're being successful in their career. So we offer these certifications to qualifying schools. A school needs to be on active subscription and have 60 licenses at a minimum. This differs per region, so you really have to check in with your local reseller about that. But this is just a way to set these specific students apart from the others. Again, we want to make sure that our commercial customers can hire these students with these skills right out of school.
Yeah, you think back to when we were all coming out of school and you're trying to market yourself to your first employer. Having something like this is a big leg up. You've basically shown your core competencies, being able to use these tools along with the education that goes along with it. So there's a lot of value there in kind of moving into the job marketplace and trying to establish yourself in that first job is always like the hardest thing to get for everybody in
Absolutely.
there. So
it gives them
now,
that extra
Mike,
confidence coming right out of school.
Yeah, that too as well. I mean, that has to help going in. You don't have to come up with the words to explain that you know what you're doing. You have the certification that basically says you're capable of doing that.
Exactly.
Now,
exactly.
a lot of people recognize our traditional exams that they see like on our websites and things like that, and we'll get into that and share some of those resources. But one of the things I don't know, Mike, if our customers or viewers know, our resellers actually have a whole host of certifications that they have to go through that are beyond even the standard certifications. Can you explain a little bit about the reseller certification program?
Yeah, Jeremy, for a long time, the reseller side of our program actually was the large part of our program in terms of exams that we were managing and content that we had to deliver. But over the last few years, the customer one has really kind of begin to catch up in that. So for resellers, they have about 20 exams that they have to focus on, and they're technical in nature, so they're not always hands on. Some of them are, but there are a lot of question and answers. So a lot of them are 50 questions in 60 minutes. And they deal with the technical aspects of how to support the software. So when customers on subscription call in with questions, that they can quickly answer those things or quickly look them up and help them so the customer can solve their problem and get back to work. The biggest difference is that a lot of those exams have to be retaken every couple of years. Whereas on the commercial side for our customers, we don't have any renewable exams yet, I guess we'll say. So the focus there is that every couple of years, every year, basically, we have them retaking exams, and it's about 6 to 8 exams per year, 6 to 8 per year that they have to retake over a certain period of time. And those things that kind of just build up into the resellers so they can sell and support the software from a standpoint that we're comfortable with.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting as well is if you're going to a reseller to take a training class, say this is an essentials and advanced assemblies or whatever that might be, those instructors at your local reseller, they actually had to go through a certification just to be able to teach those classes. And that's a little bit more involved than just doing a Q&A. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, and to clarify, the only place you can find an authorized, certified SOLIDWORKS instructor, trainer, whatever you want to call them, is one of our resellers. if somebody's claiming to be an authorized instructor, if they're not working for a reseller, they aren't. They're not authorized by us, and that's because of the process. So even in the day and age, I mean, we've had virtual capabilities like this for a long time, but even in these days, there's something about being in the room with somebody and making them nervous as they're teaching us. So the process is we sit down and they pretend like they're teaching a class, and there might be myself or somebody from my team, a couple of technical managers, and we ask the most oddball questions sometimes just to kind of see how they respond. And it's not to kind of trip them up, but we want to make sure that they're prepared to interact with customers a lot of times, which are new, and this is the first interaction that a customer may have with SOLIDWORKS, so they become the face of the company at that point. And so we want to be sure that they know what they're doing, that the customers are getting the value for their money that they're spending on the training and for the product, and that they can send them out the door ready to hit the ground running with the product.
All right. So what I want to go into next is I want to talk a little bit about the certifications themselves. So one of the, we always see the questions, how do I prep or find more information about CSWP or CSWE? And the reality is there is a lot more certifications than just the CSWP and the CSWE. Can you kind of walk us through a little bit about like what this portfolio encompasses?
Yeah, I think you're seeing on the screen now, just in terms of the scope of the program, and that's where I mentioned that the customer program is catching up to the reseller program. Finally, there's a lot of topics there, 21 that are listed there, um, and it covers everything from mechanical design. So we talk about from the SOLIDWORKS desktop side, mechanical design, PDM, simulation. And then even some specialty exams that we've broken out over the last couple of years. So we wanted some industry focused exams. So we wanted some exams that focus on just industry by themselves, because we knew that as we start to transition from selling products to roles, this was going to be very important. So we've been testing these waters for a couple of years now. And so, like for instance, with the mold tools exam, we used to be called mold tools. It was one of the easiest ones around. And then a couple of years ago, myself, with my extensive background in plastic injection molding design, and one of the guys on my team, we rewrote it. And it's now, if you don't know anything about the mold industry, it's a tough exam to pass because of the terminology that's in there and the designs. We give you it's basically called it's an X plate mold with a movable A plate. And if you don't understand how that kind of mold works, and we ask you what's the max opening of this mold, if you don't know how it works, you don't know what to do. And you could rip that thing apart if you didn't know what you're doing. So that's been the focus on there as well. And then we've also started to move into 3D Experience platform and 3D Experience Works exams as well.
Yeah, one of the things I see when I look at all of those is I see that there are associate level exams, there are professional level exams, there are expert level exams, and then there are explorer. Can you explain a little bit the difference in whether it's the tier of difficulty or the type of test that is as you would go through those and maybe you would approach those? Like, how are those tiered a little bit differently from one another so that customers looking at taking these wondering, well, what with this many exams, where should I start? Can you kind of give us a little bit of an example of like what's different? What is the difference between those?
Yeah, it certainly was. It was easier 10 years ago when there was only 4 or 5 exams to choose from, right? But the flow basically is associate to professional, and then professional, the advanced topic exams, or the advanced professionals we call them. Those kind of lie with the professional, and then we have some specialty exams are at that level, and then obviously the top tier is expert. Today we have 2 expert level exams. One that covers mechanical design, which is a CSWE that we've all known and loved for since 2010. And then we just introduced the second one that covers simulation. So it depends on what you want to do. For students, as Sarah mentioned, a lot of them start out with CSWA, but we see people just kind of jumping right into the CSWP and the advanced topics, and then get into expert really quickly. So we like to describe CSWA as using SOLIDWORKS for 6 months or so, or in the first 6 months, which kind of falls in line with the school schedule, and then CSWP. We like to say like in a production environment, commercial environment, but we have students passing CSWE from time to time as well. So it's not just for just the commercial people.
It's not just students. We actually, for folks who tune in at home or who follow our social media, we have a podcast called Born to Design. Just yesterday, they released a new podcast where they interviewed Lucas Krupe, who was. Tell us about Lucas, Mike. What's so special about Lucas, and people can learn about on our podcast?
Yeah, these guys, I used to call them kids, but they're just so far beyond that now. They pop up on the radar from time to time. Again, we're not out chasing them around or chasing them down. They just pop up, but it's a sign of their personality and why they're at the level that they are. They come across the radar. So Lucas approached me. He's basically what we kind of understand to be one of the youngest CSWEs, or one of the youngest people to ever achieve CSWEs in the world, or CSWE in the world for mechanical design. He actually joined us at 3D Experience World in Nashville earlier this year. And what was funny is that with everybody that was there, he was most excited to see Cliff from the podcast team. So if Cliff's listening in, I think I actually told him the story. And so he sat down and told a really good story, and I listened to it as well. The kid's fantastic, but it's a sign of like what these young people are doing, and credit to Sarah and the EDU team for the passion they're instilling in the teachers that then pass along to the students. Because when you talk about the next Elon Musk, stuff like that, which Lucas talks about in his podcast, it's these kids. That's who they are.
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about that on the SolidWorks website, search for the Born to Design podcast. I believe it's available on any podcast app that you're using on your mobile device. You can look for Born to Design, and those are some great stories. It's just it's different than what we're doing here live. They're audio podcasts, obviously. Tune into there, learn about Lucas, achieved CSWE at 15 years old. So pretty impressive stuff there. Now, Sarah, I want to ask you a question. When we look at all these tiers of certification, Mike kind of alluded to it, like the associates were really developed from an EDU perspective. Is that like when somebody's in the academia environment, is that kind of what the curriculum is geared towards? Is the curriculum really setting them up to succeed at the CSWA? Or where does a student kind of start thinking about taking CSWP? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Many of our schools will have a class specifically on SolidWorks. And then what they'll do is they'll give the CSWA as their final exam. So that's definitely how we like to see it progress. Students will start with the CSWA, then they'll start taking their specialty exams, their CSWP specialty exams, and then take the CSWP. Our education program, unfortunately, does not include the CSWE, but these students, like Lucas, is a prime example. They have that passion. They have that desire to learn more and to achieve more. I mean, being 15 and getting their CSWA, is amazing. We're definitely finding that more and more students, they want to build up their portfolio, their resumes with as many certifications as they possibly can, just to have this behind them. So once they graduate, they can go out there and really be qualified for, those jobs that they want and that our commercial customers are looking for too.
All right. So I just took a peek while you were talking, Sarah, at the Q&A, and the questions are loading up. So I want to remind everybody, if you're interested in asking questions to Mike or Sarah, please post those in the comments on whatever social media platform you're viewing us on. We're going to answer those kind of towards the end. I glanced over one of the things I saw let's talk about right now. And that's it's a twofold question because I know the answer to it. And I saw a couple questions here that we might be answering. One is, how are these exams taken, Mike? So do I go to a reseller and sit down at a desk and take a number 2 pencil and fill in a bunch of circles? How am I taking this exam? And then, Sarah, I'm going to follow up with you because this process is a little bit different in an EDU environment. So, Mike, let's start with you. So say I'm ready to take the exam. What is this experience going to be like for me?
Well, Jeremy, luckily we replaced the number 2 pencil with a mouse some years ago. Funny enough, it was a rather long process up until about 2006, 2007 when we moved the exams online. And it was strictly because we needed to be able to reach more people. You had to go to a reseller at the time, sit down for 8 hours, take an exam. and then it got uploaded to a server internal in SOLIDWORKS. We had an API that would grade it and then spit out a result and send it back. So a lot of times you didn't even get your results the next day. So we came across some technology that really changed that. So the main way that people are doing it now is just to purchase an exam through the store. Is that's one of the main ways on the certification sites. As but then there's also through the academic certification program, which Sarah will speak to. But it's available all around the world, so the access is pretty much easy. As long as you have a computer and an internet connection that has and SolidWorks, you're good to go.
In these, and the user doesn't have to actually go and have the exam given to them. This is a self-taken exam. Is that correct?
Yeah, for outside the EDU environment, they're self-proctored. So we'll talk about some different tools that kind of help with that. But they're on their own. Again, as a team, we've talked about this kind of goal to be able to administer exams from anywhere, or administer exams around the world while sitting on the deck of a cruise ship, and we kind of achieved that goal some years back. So,
Sarah, what
I'll
about
volunteer for that.
Sarah, in an academia environment, how is taking an exam going to be different? How will students interact with that differently?
Sure. So for the certification program for academia, it is a little bit different. So number one, the schools themselves, they can provide free certifications, providing that, they are on active subscription and they meet our minimum license requirements. The school also needs to apply to be an academic certification provider. It's a very simple online application that they complete, very, very short form. Then the schools, once they are academic certification providers, they will give the exam in a proctored environment. Now, of course, with everything going on with COVID, we have temporarily suspended that proctoring, and so a parent can act as the proctor for those exams. Again, this is a special circumstance. And in our schools, the way that this actually works is I mentioned it earlier that they get all the certification exams that we offer minus the CSWE exams. Schools will basically get the same number of certification vouchers as number of seats that that they're entitled to. And these vouchers are refreshed every year, providing that the school is on active subs. So I hope that explains the differences between commercial versus EDU.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, Mike, with these exams being self-proctored, what's to stop, say I'm at a company and I say you and I work for the same company, and I know, Mike, you're really good at SolidWorks. Why can't I just have you take the exam and look over your shoulder and copy the answers down?
Well, first of all, I'd be careful about saying that I'm really good at SolidWorks after all these years. If I was taking an exam in Outlook or something, I got you on that one. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, since in a self-proctored environment, there is a concern, and that was really what allowed us. That was one of the key features of going online, was the tools that kind of the software brought with it. So we can. If in your example, if you had a model that, okay, well, this guy took the exam last week, it's the same model. People are more than welcome to just copy the answers. But I will say there's variations of those models. So for on the CWP exam, there's one model set that one model that looks the same. We have 500 different variations of it, just slight variations. So if you're taking a test that you want to pass, and if you paid for it, you're more than welcome to kind of, just use somebody else's answers and just hope that it's the right one. Or you can sit down and really go through it and have a little better chance of passing it, because they're very slight sometimes. It's not in a way to trick people. We certainly aren't testing people's ability to take an exam. We're just trying to, again, the value behind the certification. So there's a lot of tools. There's obviously some things in the background that go on behind the scenes I don't want to discuss. But we take it very seriously. And then as you'd imagine, we have a very good end user license agreement that allows us to kind of rectify situations when we discover them.
Cool. So we've seen all the exams. We kind of learned a little bit about what they are. Where can people go and learn more about the individual exams?
So I direct them to the main webpage, solidworks.com. SOLIDWORKS.com/certification. And on there, you're going to find all the information that you need at exam level. So there's two different sites. The one we're showing now, 3dexperience.virtualtester.com, that's where you're going to go to kind of interact with your certification account. Once you've taken an exam, if you want to download certificates, logos, stuff like that, that's where you're going to go. SOLIDWORKS.com/certification, that's where you're going to find the exam catalog. And that's going to always be the up-to-date listing of exams that we have available. Um, it's live up to date, and then each exam page actually has, you can click on it and it'll include a list of topics that we recommend that you understand or have a a good understanding of inside SOLIDWORKS before taking that exam. It also has information about if there's different versions of the software that you need, different things like that. So there is that's mainly the homepage for information, and then there's also direct links to purchase the exam from there.
Yeah. So then once people go there, once they figure out they want an exam, then they can go to the actual tester website. Is that how that works?
Yeah, it's an automated process of whether they're buying it or they're using a different offer that we'll discuss, or they have a voucher that we had they got for free or something. Um, the 3D experience on virtualtester.com is where they're going to download the tester client, where they're going to establish their account and interact with it. It's where they're going to be able to go on and turn on their listing in our worldwide online directory. It's where they'll be able to plug in their social profiles if they want people to be able to connect with them and stuff like that. So it's the personalization site basically.
Okay. This is also where you can go once you've taken your exams and you get the certifications. I was just on there the other day going back. I can see all my certifications back to my very first one in 2003 when I first got my very first CSWP exam. I noticed, and I think what's cool is they're unique to when you took them. I still have like the old logo on my original CSWP certification back there, which is very cool, actually.
Yeah, I still have my first CSWP on there, signed by John McElhaney. Shout out to him if he's dialing listening today. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people ask about expiration of certifications. For the commercial side, for customers and EDU, the exams do not expire. The certifications do not expire. They do get replaced by updated versions. It doesn't mean, because we do update the exams from time to time. So if walking in with a certification, say a CSWP dated from 2008 versus 2020 into a job, I bet that one is going to be a little more valuable to the other. So you can basically kind of self-update or when the time comes.
Okay. And then, so what about academia? How are they going to gain access to these certifications and to be able to give to their students?
Great question, Jeremy. So basically, as I stated earlier, the school has to be an academic certification provider. They are given vouchers from their resellers. I suggest that, if a student is not sure if they are a qualified school, to speak to their professors, talk to your teachers. Your teacher can easily find out how many vouchers they have, obviously if they qualify, but definitely go that route. Reach out to your professors about that. These exams are the best way for you to prove your skills, especially when you graduate. So definitely check with your teachers on that.
And then, Mike, I think there's one more place where people can go and take these certifications. Every year, I get the opportunity, since we've been doing SolidWorks Live, I think I've interviewed you every year at 3D Experience World, previously SolidWorks World. Tell us a little bit about what that involves, because that's a lot more than just giving a bunch of exams at one time.
Yeah, it's a great time. It's a good time, and I'm smiling because I love that time of year. The conference, going back to 2006 when I first went as a customer, I've loved going every year. So it's a busy 4 days for us, especially Sunday. We have what we kind of termed, I guess, certification Sunday. This past year, as you saw, we had about 360 people come through and take exams on Sunday. It's amazing to see people come and line up, and SolidWorks users, they're so efficient, and maybe it's the engineering in them or something. We have a line of 150 people, and we get them in, and 10 minutes later they're all in there taking exams, and away it goes. And then we just kind of sit there for a couple hours until as they start to finish. But it's fun to see them take it. I mean, certainly a lot of different reactions of people coming out of the room as they finish them. Some not so happy, then they tend to avoid you and go a different way. And then of course the ones that pass, that stop and want to, ask what's next, or, do I get my certificate? So certification Sunday definitely at 3D Experience World. We continue the tradition this past year in Nashville. In addition to that, we do the CSWE event on Monday night, which is where we invite all the expert level attendees to join us for a party. This year was one of the biggest ones we've had in terms of expert level, 350 people. And then of course we try to give away something. We always have shirts, and we try to give away a product that's been designed in SOLIDWORKS from one of our customers.
Always a fun event. I think it's always the highlight of 3D Experience World for myself, and I know a lot of the members on my team really look forward to going to that. It's interesting, when we're at 3D Experience World, we were there in Nashville this past year. When I came up to interview you, you guys actually, you sell out every seat, every booth, every computer you guys have available there, and you guys have like a wait list for this. Now, it's important people know this is included as part of your pass to 3D Experience World, correct?
Yeah, so people that are, full conference attendees, obviously people that are just there for an expo pass or a day pass, they don't, the benefit is not open to them, but it's open to the general attendees, and it does fill up pretty quickly. But a lot of people sign up and don't show up, so we've never had to turn anybody away. I think even then we can give out codes, stuff like that, and we're always looking for ways to expand it. At the end of the day, it's just it's determined by the number of computers that we have on site that are available. And I think for 2021, we have some things in mind that is going to allow us to expand that a little bit. So, but yeah, it's always fun to see.
Well, let's talk about that. So I was given the go-ahead on the SolidWorks Live to make an announcement. I think this announcement has actually been made publicly on this website already. 3D Experience World this year, which will be a completely virtual event. So it's going to be held in mid to late February. The dates are still kind of being worked around, but if you want to learn more about this, you can go to the website 3dexperienceworld.com. There you will be able to stay up to date on all the information leading up to 3D Experience World, learn when the exact dates are, how you'll be able to sign up for these virtual events, and what the format will be. This is going to be a really unique experience. And one of the things I'm actually really excited about going to a virtual event is the possibility that we can open up 3D Experience World to so many more of our customers and more attendees. Do you have any plans or ideas of how this will impact what has traditionally been Certification Sunday, Mike?
Well, I mean, other than unfortunately not being able to get together and see so many friends and shake so many hands, it's going to actually allow us to do a lot more, because we don't have the restrictions of, people that can only fly in and attend on site. So attend on site. So from my team's perspective, we're going to do whatever we can to make it the best event possible. So we're going to do Certification Sunday. It may not be Sunday, it might be Monday, but there will be a certification day, and we'll make sure that people have access to that. I think it's important to note that this is a bridge event. I'm looking forward to being back with everybody in 2022 on site somewhere. So we're also focused on that, but we want to take advantage of this opportunity to do what we can. So, I mean, can we beat that record of 2,700 people taking an exam in one day? I don't know. Sarah has already brought up to me, but yeah, as disappointing as it may be for some people that it is there, I think we all understand why. And on top of that, we're even going to try to host a virtual CSW event one night as well. So I can, and I just want to thank the events team for allowing us to be part of it again. And for and letting us, share the event with everybody.
All right. Well, there you have it. So stay tuned to 3dexperienceworld.com to learn more information about that and what we'll be doing for certification there. Like Mike said, this is ideally, I like the term you used, a bridge event. Maybe we see down the road, maybe a hybrid event evolves out of this. Who knows? Who knows what 2022 offers? hopefully we learn from this and we can do some really cool stuff moving forward. But I want to get back to certification here. We're kind of getting through here. One of the top questions we get a lot is, how can I, so the exams do have a cost to them. And one of the common questions we have is, how can I take the exam for free, Mike? Like that's a big question that comes up quite often.
Yeah, I'm seeing over in the the chat or the question feed that we're getting, and I figured that was going to be a big one. It's I always like to joke that the money we make off certifications probably pays the light bill at the Waltham office a couple of times a year. It's not much, but we want to make sure if we just gave these things away and people could take them over and over and over again until they pass, what would they be worth, right? So it kind of sets a little bit of a barrier there, but it's just there are some costs involved. So the number one thing is just social promotion. So when we talk about like how can I get an exam for free? All right. Look for social promotions. I'm pretty active on Twitter. My Twitter activity is 100% about SolidWorks, nothing else. It's all about that. We'll announce things on there for even one thing we did this year and to try to help out is during the month of April is that we reduce all the exams except for the expert levels by 50%. We put a 50% off discount on all the exams for the store the month of April to kind of help people out in that sense. That's something we just never done before. Okay, so we did it, and then we also did a couple other promotions there. So we announced things like on there. We might do something where, hey, there's a new exam that came out, so for the next 10 days, it's free or it's a discount or something like that. Same thing with the subreddit on Reddit, the SolidWorks subreddit. We're active in there on Facebook and anything always that we kind of put out. We work with the company where there's a blog post that gets on there that goes out the company blog. So paying attention to those, being engaged in events like this. We did a promotion with the My SolidWorks team for a couple of months where if you went through the entire learning path of My SolidWorks, you got to take the exam for free at the end. That was very successful as well. Attending other conferences like this, or I'm sorry, like 3D Experience World. One of our longtime and very close partner product, Solid Professor, last week had their first ever virtual summit, and we included the choice of CSWA or CSWP to all attendees in their digital swag bag, as it's known. And that basically covered the cost of the admission, if you will. So that was another way. So there are opportunities there. Another one is user groups. Sometimes we run promotions with some user groups, things like that. Being actively engaged in the community, so like that's where it's going to come from. Sending me a message on Twitter or on Reddit or somewhere else saying, "Hey, how to get a free exam?" That's probably the hardest way to get a free exam.
And
Jeremy,
then,
if I could add. Oh, sorry,
yeah.
Jeremy. I was just going to add to that as well. From the academia side, from the education perspective, we do the same thing. Follow us on our social media channels. We, from time to time, for the same thing, certain promotions on specific exams or whatnot, and those are for students that might not be part of a school that's on subscription too. So we strongly encourage you to follow us on our on all of our social media platforms to learn more about possible promotions.
Great. One of the things the word popped up was subscription. Mike, what about some customers who are on subscription? There's value there. Do they get access to any of these certifications?
Oh yeah, definitely. This is a long established program that we just recently expanded as part of the value-added benefits of subscription service. Basically, for every seat that you have on subscription, you get you can access this offer. So when we talk about a seat, if you have like a network license with 20 seats, you can access this offer 20 times. If you have 25 users, it does 5 users won't be able to access it. Um, on top of that, the offer runs twice per year. So in the January through June calendar timeframe, and then from July through December, you can redeem it twice, so that basically those 20 seats turns into 40 seats. Um, we implemented a new kind of policy to kind of clean up or close some loopholes back in late last year that allowed us to make sure that only customers on subscription were accessing this benefit. And so you need to have a special login, SolidWorks ID connected to your serial number. But then we also expanded it to allow it to where a user can essentially reach the level to take CSWE. They won't be able to take CSWE, but they'll be able to reach that without having to pay for any exams within over the course of 2 years. So it's something that we never had there before as well, and it adds the value is a few $100s a year. So when you look at those subscription costs, it's a good chunk of it.
Yeah. So for those watching, if you're working for a customer that's on subscription and you were thinking about taking a certification, this is a great way to take those certifications at no cost. You can go to solidworks.com/subscription offer to learn more about how to redeem those vouchers and be able to take those certifications. Mike, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions here, and then we're going to show an example of taking the exam, and then we'll get to the Q&A. So we're running a little bit long. So I wanted to ask you a few more questions here, Mike. How often are you adding new exams into this program, and how does the constantly evolving product change when you release new exams? So like, for example, we're going to make an announcement in a little while about SOLIDWORKS 2021. So every year the software gets better, it makes things easier, but also there's more products that are introduced all the time. How often are you, and have you recently launched any new exams?
Yeah, it's a great question. We certainly, I always shake my hand at the product development guys when I'm in Waltham and I walk by their area, because they're constantly coming up with new tools that kind of make our exams much easier to take. So I would say on average, our exams, especially the advanced top exams, they're getting updated every 2 to 3 years. In fact, we just are releasing a new version of the drawing tools exam that has some new security features in there that we're testing, that users won't really be able to see, but we'll be able to see in the background. So that there, and then of course we try to release products. If we tried to release an exam every time a new product come out, I would need about 30 more people to keep on top of it, especially with the platform, with the amount that the roles come out. But last year we announced, or we released Cam Professional, which has been received very well. The previously mentioned expert or simulation expert exam was released. And then we also released 3 new exams for 3D Experience platform last year, for 3 different roles, for a collaborative industry innovator, collaborative, 3D creator, and 3D sculptor. And so so we're constantly kind of updating those exams and making sure that they're there. It's kind of a funny thing because it depends on what we can do and when we can do. So we're always trying to look and see what customers are asking for.
What about any new exams? Do you have any? Can you share or announce any new exams that might be coming out here in the near future for those who maybe have taken a bunch of exams and they're looking for new certifications?
Yeah, I teased this on Twitter last night that we were going to announce them. So if we don't, I'm glad we got to this because I'm sure I'd get some angry tweets after this. We'd like to announce 2 new desktop product exams, as well as one for a 3D experience. So the first one is Flow Simulation Professional. So this will be a hands-on exam using SOLIDWORKS Flow Simulation. This is developed by Yannick on my team, who is pretty much knows everything there is to know about simulation. He's been a great addition to the team in the last couple of years, and that's why you've seen like an uptick in the simulation stuff on there. And simulation exams are not easy to do because the meshing tools and everything else, they change from release to release sometimes. So he's constantly having to stay on top of those. So not super easy to stay on top of. API Professional, another hands-on exam. We're trying to release as many hands-on exams as we can, to get away from the question and answer type. So API Professional, funny enough, it's usually always one of the top 2 requests we get, either routing or API exams. So this year, based on the scheduling and the availability of the people on my team, API was what we could do. So Daniel on my team has been working hard on that. In fact, it's pretty much almost ready to release. We'd hope to have it done by today, but we're just trying to cross the last few the T's, dot the I's, and get everything kind of put into place. So it's in beta right now. And then finally, the third one will be actually the first 3D Experience Works portfolio exam that we'll offer to our customers. And this will be based on the 3D Experience Works collaborative designer role for SOLIDWORKS. This won't come out probably a little later in the fall, September, October timeframe. The other 2 will be out probably around the same time as well. But we're excited about that one because it's kind of our first kind of hands-on exam, or our first exam dedicated at one of the roles for 3D Experience Works. and especially Collaborative Designer, which we think is going to be a very valuable product that SOLIDWORKS users are going to enjoy.
Cool. This all sounds really exciting. I know personally, one of my ones I'm interested in is the API one. I have an interest in the SolidWorks API. I like to write my own add-ins, so that'll be pretty cool. I might have to go out and touch base with you after this and look at getting involved in that. So what I wanted to do for the last thing here I wanted to cover is people who've never taken an exam before. They may wonder, what's this experience going to be like? We talked about taking how it's online. Well, how does that involve hands-on? So what I did is last night, there are 2 free exams you can go test yourself with. There is a free CSWA sample exam and a sample CSWP exam. And they just ask you a couple questions to get you familiar with what the testing process looks like. So I thought it might be kind of fun to go through this. So let's take a run through and look at what this process might look like here. So as you can see, it's a small app that you install. There are Q&A style questions that you'll get here. So here are some questions about drawings, about what type these are. And again, this is CSWA, so this is probably one of the easier ones here. But basically, they give you a drawing with all the dimensions on it, and even in the upper left, some very specific dimensions to this model. Mike, can you explain some of these like changeable dimensions here as we kind of do a fast forward through this?
Yeah, so we don't have the ability to go in and look and see how something is modeled from like a feature by feature standpoint. And long ago we determined that that's probably okay, because if there's one way to do something in SOLIDWORKS, there's 10 different ways to do it, right? And so what we're trying to flesh out is the most robust or the most efficient way. So the example I like to use is a 1 by 1 by 1 cube. So let's use a millimeter, right? So a 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter cube. When you model that and set the material to steel, it's going to weigh a certain amount no matter what you do at all, as long as it's modeled correctly. If you're off a slightly bit, the number just simply will not match. Um, so, but when you look about how, or you think about how it's modeled, most of us are probably going to sketch a 1 by 1 square, and then we're going to extrude it 1 millimeter, apply the material and weigh it, right? Somebody else could come in and sketch and create 6 surfaces, knit them all together, and create a solid, and they'll get the same exact number that we did. But now, in terms of like modeling efficiency, one is obviously a little bit more efficient than the other. But then, in terms of changes, like we're seeing here in this exam, is as what we ask you to do is you model something, and then just like in the real world, you come up with a design. The design is perfect, and some sales guy comes up and changes it, 2 minutes before the deadline, and you got people down in the shop waiting for drawings to start cutting steel. So that's what we're doing. And how can your model stand up to these changes? And some of the changes are pretty radical, and things will start to fall apart rather quickly. So we're looking at the efficiency that the person has in the modeling tools. There's variables in this drawing that you can see, A, B, C, D. They're used, and those change, so they're used. You can try and chase down all the A dimensions at every change, or you can use the equation manager and you can set them as variables in there. Same thing with equations. You can try and do the math in your head, A plus B divided by E plus 10, or you can put that into the equation manager. One can be a little more efficient than the other.
Sure. When I watch this and we go through here, you give a model, then you ask for a series of changes on it, even adding new features to this. This is very reminiscent to me of at 3D Experience World, the challenge that Mark Schneider does, Model Mania. In fact, I'd argue there's a blog post on the SolidWorks technical blog of all the previous Model Manias where they go through modeling the part up and making the changes. Those are probably a fairly good resource to get used to the types of changes that someone would expect to be modeled, right?
Yeah, it's funny how little Mark and I work together. He's essentially doing what we're doing, but once a year in a very highly compressed setting, in a very public setting. So he's always done a great job with it. Always been a huge part of the conference every year. But it is essentially the same thing. You're trying to express your ability to use SolidWorks as a tool to either a potential employer or the company that you're working for already. And so what better way to do it with a certification is look, I know what I'm kind of doing. I know what I'm doing in the software. That's what the certifications kind of lead to. Model Mania especially is he follows the same kind of path that we do. You get a model, you design it, and then boom, there's the next change. The big difference is that with our exams, you can click all the way through the exam and see what the changes are going to be, which you don't have in Model Mania, but you also don't have it in the real world either. I mean, how do you know what that sales guy is going to change, right? So he does a great job with it. It's been fun to see.
Yeah, so the exams cover everything, including part modeling, assembly modeling here. Here, again, this was a sample exam, so there's only a small sampling of questions here, but basically, just like before, you're basically asked after you do the modeling side to interrogate the model to come up with your results. I think in this one, basically, you're showing competency to add mates between the individual components. And then kind of based on how those are, you're using center of gravity to kind of determine if those components are in the correct place. Is that right?
Yeah, so with an assembly, it's a little bit different because we have parts that are moving around, so we can see where the center of gravity is. And in this, you're just basically setting some very simple, angle dimensions, some concentric dimensions, probably width dimensions. And again, even there, the type of dimension you use to position those little yellow things, the tab into the slot, what kind of mate are you using? You could use coincident, but what if they're not the same size? So then are you using the width mates? Do you start to get in some of the quote unquote advanced mates to kind of help you get along? And then as you can see, we don't even tell if you're in the right place. You have to enter the values in there. So you may be way off and not know. And if we change it, it gets worse. It compounds.
So then when you're done, you go through and basically you submit all your answers and you get your results back instantly. It looks like I actually was able to pass my sample CSWA exam.
Yeah, perfect score, 130 out of 130. So congrats on that.
Earlier, when we were talking, you were going to poke some fun at me with that one.
Yeah, I went to verify your results and it didn't prove out. So.
So again, if you want to learn more about the SOLIDWORKS certification program, I encourage you to visit solidworks.com/certification. You can find loads of information there. What I want to do now is I want to spend some time going over the Q&A. It's 11:57 here Eastern time, so we went a little bit long, but I'm going to try to get through as many of these questions as I can. So I'm going to pull these up. Most trending question is, how do I get the certification for free? I think we sort of answered that. What you want to do is on these social media platforms. Oh, they just went off camera. So make sure you like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, connect with us on LinkedIn, and follow us on Instagram. And also follow us on Twitter. And Mike, I wasn't even aware of this, that we had a Reddit page. Join us there, because it sounds like, Mike, you're running promotions randomly throughout the year where people can get access to this. But there's also the URL that we shared earlier in the broadcast, solidworks.com/subscription offer. Any other things?
No, the Reddit is, word of caution with Reddit. Reddit is Reddit, but it's a very well run. It's a user run thing. We're in there kind of participating, just kind of looking over things. Originally I found it because somebody's posting codes in there for exams. So we've kind of gotten rid of that stuff like that, but it's just a great way to reach out to customers and reach them in a different way. It's the fun part is every other day or so, somebody's posting a screenshot of their certification they earned. It's I got my CSWP, next on to the next one. And it's fun to watch those, that progression. But going back to the cost thing, between the academic offer that Sarah and their team does, which is just provide certifications for, literally thousands of students around the world. It's such a great program. Between that and the subscription service offer, again, there's not a lot of people paying for exams. So there's ways to get out there. So just, show us that you want to earn it and then that you understand the value behind it.
So one of the other questions we got, I actually don't know if we can answer this on video because of the region, because it's different regionally. We have a question, how much does a certification cost? But I'm sure it's like our software itself, that changes depending on where in the world you probably are. So it's really hard to pinpoint a number.
Yeah, well, so for the store is global for now. We do manage currency, so the currency fluctuations are always taken into account. the web store does a good job of that. In terms of like value or pricing, it's the same all around the world for now. We've looked at trying
Okay.
to structure pricing, but there's a lot of rules that comes into those things, and you can have a long meeting with legal about different things. So it just depends on what we can flesh out.
Okay. So this is a great question because you were talking to me about this when I was trying to record that video, because I want to make sure I recorded a decent video. How many attempts do you have when you're taking the exams, or how many times can you retake it if you fail? And is there a waiting period?
Yeah, so famously, I always like to tell before I joined SolidWorks, the very first certification exam I ever took was at SolidWorks World 2006 here in Las Vegas. I was a customer. That was still the 8-hour exam. I thought it was a good idea to stay out till 3 or 4 in the morning drinking in Las Vegas, then show up at 8 a.m. to take an 8-hour exam. As most people probably would expect, I didn't do too well, and certainly not well enough to pass. So I got to stand outside Caesar's Palace and watch the CSWP group walk off to the CSWP event without me. So I failed the first time
Oh,
that I took CSWP, and I had to wait a whole year. I could have went and paid for it and taken it, I think, 30 days later. So with the online exams, basically all the exams, with the exception of the expert level, you have to wait 14 days after you fail an exam. And then once the 14 days has passed, you're welcome to retake it. And then that just kind of continues on until you eventually pass it. With expert exams now are 90 days. So we first introduced them, it was 180 days, 6 months. So, but we basically want you to take that time to kind of go and restudy. And as you saw on the exam results screen, you get some feedback as far as what you missed. So it's, you kind of know what to go study. And as a user, you'll know what you struggled with in the exam and what you need to study. So basically 14 days is the waiting period between retakes.
Okay. This is a great question. I think we actually forgot to cover this as we went through here was, can you just go right and take the CSWE exam, or are there prerequisites? I think I actually forgot to ask you this question, Mike, when we went through the talking points.
Yeah. Yeah. For some reason we ran really long during the live instead of the, as opposed to the rehearsal this morning. Yeah. So for CSWs, the expert level exams have prerequisites. So for the mechanical design, you have to pass CSWP and then at least 4 of the 5 exams, 4 of the 5 advanced topic exams. When we first released CSWE, it was, we only had 4 advanced topics available. So it was 3 or 4. When we had a 5th, we had 4 or 5. With simulation, right now we have 2 simulation exams. So it's probably a good bet to say that once we release flow simulation, that it's going to move from, I believe you have to have two of the 2 right now to take expert exam. That it's going to move to probably 2 of the 3, or maybe 3 of the 3. We haven't determined that yet. So those have prerequisites. You can't jump straight into those, but anything else you can go straight to.
Okay. The next question is, so this question, I think we basically covered this, is asked if there were any discounts for students, but I think, Sarah, you kind of explained that if you're a student at a school or university that's on subscription, there's no cost to students at all, correct?
correct. Yes. No discount necessarily.
Now,
Yeah.
I have a question. Maybe this is loaded. What if the school is on subscription, but it isn't doing certifications? Can a student ask to take a certification through their school or university? I don't know. I don't know if that comes up. I don't.
That's a very good question. I'm not exactly sure. I don't think we've ever really come across that kind of a situation. Typically, the schools will provide the certification. Mike, have you ever encountered an issue where schools wouldn't?
Yeah, in fact, on Reddit, we get people posting. Anytime I see a student posting and asking, well, how can I get access to can I get a code or whatever? I say, well, have you contacted your university yet? And then sometimes I'll have them just message me the school, privately message me the school they're at, and then I ask, either Sarah or Chris from the EDU team, hey, is this school on subscription? And there have been several times where the school is on subscription, has the availability of the program, but they just haven't signed up for it. So we got them all set up. They got signed up, and then the student was able to get the exam for free. So just be like you said, Jeremy, if the school is teaching SolidWorks, it's good to reach out to the professor and say, hey, are we part of the certification provider program or not?
Absolutely. So yeah, if you're a student, make sure you're asking your teachers how you can get your certification, so that when you graduate, you can kind of go into the world with those certifications. So I think the next two you kind of answer. There's two questions about exams coming to the 3D Experience platform or certifications for the 3D Experience platform. Mike, I think you mentioned we had like what, 3 of those already we have today, and then there's some more coming out, right?
Yeah, we have long-term plans, of course. There's resource challenges sometimes, but we definitely want to bring on some hands-on exams for the platform. The platform brings a lot of new challenges for us, but we're taking the opportunity to kind of restructure a lot of things at the same time. So we're getting the ability to unwrite the wrongs of the past when we were just a desktop software or focus. So if anything, it's opening up the opportunities for us are tremendous now. So I'm excited about what we can do when everything is all connected, and you're not having to bounce back and forth to a Windows computer all the time.
Okay. Popular question here are things like, where can we get tutorials for the certifications? What are some books we can do? We actually, due to time, I was skipping over this. I'll pull these links back up on our slides, and I'll let you kind of talk about those resources, Mike.
Yeah, I was going to say we kind of had to jump ahead to some time, and thanks for everybody for sticking around. And definitely, I mean, I could talk for hours about this stuff, but I'm sure it's not ideal. MySolidWorks.com, definitely we have training courses on there for every exam except expert, and I'll touch on that in a second. You can go on there and take it. They're at different levels. Sarah can talk about in a second about the access to MySolidWorks for students. Solid Professor, a very good long-term partner of ours that has helped us develop content. They have a ton of content on certifications. If you're a customer of theirs, or you can look into them as well. I saw some questions about YouTube. You can go and try and navigate the minefield that YouTube is. There's just as much bad information as there is good. So you really have to kind of look and see and trust what you're watching. We're trying to develop some YouTubers. There's actually, we were talking about Lucas Cooper earlier. He just, one of the things when I was talking to him in Nashville, said, hey, why don't you just do a YouTube channel with CSWP Prep and we'll help promote it. And so he launched it like a couple of weeks ago. And so it's building pretty quickly. So we'll start to reach out to creators in that sense for some quote unquote approved channels where we can send people as well. Because I think people just love learning from YouTube. But Sarah can certainly speak to the benefits for or the learning resources for academia.
Absolutely. So for EDU, another part of our value add for our program, of course, the students get the free certification, but they also get free access to My SolidWorks for students. And that means that the student will get access to the CSWA and CSWP exam prep courses that are on My SolidWorks. So what you would have to do is contact your professor, ask them, again, if it's a qualified school, you would ask them for your home use serial number, and you would use that serial number to register yourself on My SolidWorks for students. That's definitely, I would strongly recommend that all the students reach out to their teachers about that type of access.
Okay. So what I'm going to do here, some of these questions we actually covered as we went through. They may have been asked earlier in the broadcast, and I think we covered them. They're things like, does the certification expire? Things like that. So I kind of want to get into some of the things we didn't. So there's a specific question. Can a student take a certification without the involvement? I guess I don't know how you're a student if you're not going to a school or a university. I would argue, are you a student then at that point? Maybe, so there's a question down the road. What if you go to a school that doesn't teach SolidWorks? There's other 3D CAD tools out there. Maybe somebody's dad or mother has SolidWorks at home and they want to get a SolidWorks certification. Maybe they learned one of the other 3D design tools out there and they want to show that they're good at SolidWorks as well. Is there anything out there for people to do that? It's kind of an edge case, I know.
Yeah, from the certification standpoint, the desktop certifications are built in a way that you need to have SOLIDWORKS to take the exams. So, funny enough, some years ago, you could take one of our exams in different CAD packages. So we rectified that a little bit. So you do need SOLIDWORKS in that case. Once you have the software, it's there. So, I mean, maybe Sarah can speak to how student trials or something like that.
Well, there's a couple of different ways. If you don't get it through your school, you can purchase a student edition. Students can go to solidworks.com/student store and purchase their own version. It's a term license, so it's good for 1 year from date of activation. Uh, the other interesting thing too is if you do purchase a student edition, you not only receive access to my SolidWorks for students for free, but you actually also get certification vouchers for your CSWA and your CSWP. So there's a lot of value in that purchase alone. And I think we're selling it for, oh goodness, it's a very reasonable price. I think it's about $99, and you get the software for 1 year, 2 certification vouchers, and access to my SolidWorks for student for a year.
That's free, basically.
All right, we're going to answer one last question here, and then we're going to try to wrap up. We're almost 15 minutes over. This is a good one. Where did it go? I just lost it. I have bought the CSWP exam voucher. How long will that be valid before I have to utilize it?
Yeah, great question. If you buy a voucher online, basically it's a credit that gets put in there into your account, and that credit remains valid forever. So if you had bought a CSWP credit 10 years ago and you went to use it today, it's still valid. So we ensure that when we upgrade the exam, update it, reversion it, that the previous credits still work. Now, vouchers coming from like the CSWA promotion we did with my SolidWorks, they expired on August 1st. So, but when you're in those programs and receive the voucher that way, it's always very clear when they expire. So, like our subscription service benefits, when you access that program and you get your set of vouchers, they're good for 180 days and then they expire. But if you're purchasing them online, they never expire. So we always make sure that those things keep working when we version the exam. So it's one of those things like Disneyland. If you have a ticket supposedly from 10 years ago, you can get into Disneyland using it. So we do the same thing.
All right. I think that's going to be it for our question and answer portion. There were some we didn't get to. If we didn't get a chance to answer your question, somebody will probably reach out to you on whatever social media platform you're on. If you need answers to your question, I encourage you, contact your SolidWorks reseller. Even if you're an educator, you have a reseller that you purchase your SolidWorks license through, they can help you with getting your certifications, accessing things like your vouchers. I saw some questions there as well. So please contact your SolidWorks reseller for any other specific questions you may have. They should all be certified to answer those questions for you. And with that, I want to thank Mike and Sarah for joining us here today to talk about the certification program. I'm sorry we went a little long, everybody tuning in. We have one last thing we want to announce here, and that is our next SolidWorks live broadcast. So our last broadcast was on 3D Experience SolidWorks. Well, that was a major release. Well, guess what? We have another major release of SolidWorks coming September 23rd. We're going to be our annual What's New in SolidWorks 2021. This is going to be a great technical piece where we're going to have some technical guests to do a deep dive into some of the new features and capabilities coming in SolidWorks 2021. It's going to be at 11 a.m. Again on September 23rd. If you want to stay notified of these, make sure you like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, connect with us on LinkedIn, and follow us on Instagram. And you'll get notified whenever we're going to do another SolidWorks live broadcast. So again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I apologize. We went a little bit longer than we anticipated, but tune in again in about a month to see another really exciting SolidWorks live. Until next time, everybody take care.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.